Since its founding in 1983, the area nonprofit Trees for Houston has had a simple mission to plant, protect, and promote trees. This morning, Trees for Houston will celebrate the planting of its 1 millionth tree in the Houston metro area. That celebration will take place in an event at the Kellum-Noble House near Sam Houston Park. Joining us live now from there, Houston Matters producer Joshua Zinn. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Craig. Yeah, I'm here with Barry Ward from Trees for Houston here at the millionth tree planting. Barry, I guess, firstly, just what does it mean to be able to plant the millionth tree and put that big old number there?
Well, it's humbling, and of course, it's an honor. In basic literal terms, it's a profound achievement. There's a million more trees in Houston than otherwise would have been here, and that is a tremendous, just a tremendous achievement. What it is not, it's not simply a data point. It is a departure point for the next million, the next 5 million. The urban forest, the urban canopy won't replenish itself. It's just a part of an ongoing effort to keep our city livable and green, and comfortable and clean. And so we're very happy to be here today to celebrate the milestone.
Yeah. So this milestone is 1 million. That's 1 million starting from when? When did Trees for Houston start doing it?
Starting in 1983, the efforts to get numbers of trees in really began in about 85. We're here with this beautiful live oak downtown. The two grassroots efforts that merged to form Trees for Houston were called the Live Oak Society, which we have a live oak here, and we are downtown. Trees for Downtown is how it all started. So here we are with 43 years later with our 1 millionth tree, and Trees for Houston is now, by some measure, the largest regional tree planting entity in North America.
Yeah.
And it's due to the folks in Houston that make this stuff happen.
So you mentioned that this is a live oak tree. Can you tell me a little bit about it? What's important about the live oak? Why did you pick the live oak as the millionth tree?
Sure. So aesthetically, it fits in architecturally with everything here in this downtown area. It's at this beautiful park with these historic homes. These trees live many hundreds of years, and it is a good native, very durable. It's drought tolerant, it's cold tolerant, it's flood tolerant. So it is just the perfect tree for our environment. And this tree, the oldest tree in Houston is a live oak that's about 500 years old, right?
Wow.
So this tree will outlive us. And the analogy between trees and looking to the future is not lost on us here. So we're happy to plant a live oak.
Yeah. So you've got quite the setup here to put this tree in the ground. There's this giant piece of construction equipment with a big crane, and this tree is pretty sizable. So you need a lot of weight or a lot of power to get it in there. Is this usually how it's done? Is this kind of a special case?
This is a special case. You normally, for financial reasons, you plant much smaller trees. They're easier to care for, therefore they're cheaper to care for. And your sustainability over large projects and over long amounts of time, your sweet spot is in a 6 to 10 foot tree in the ground, not a 30-foot tree in the ground. But for something as momentous as the millionth tree, absolutely, we wanted to do something big and impactful.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about like what's going to kind of happen here? So it looks like the tree obviously will be lowered into the ground, will kind of fit into this hole.
That's correct.
And I assume the dirt will just kind of be packed in, and then the tree will sort of make itself home?
It will. You're going to have to water it, particularly when they're this big. We will care for this for many years, a minimum of 2 to 3 years of special attention, particularly during the summer.
Yeah.
So you'll see one of our crews out here 1 or 2 days a week for the next 36 months.
Wow. Wow. And so in particular, you mentioned that we're near some historic homes. We're at the site of the Kellum-Noble House here in Houston. What is that house, and why is this the important place for this tree?
Kellum-Noble in specific, but this is the first city park in the city of Houston. And so this was just a really fitting place for us to come in and put our millionth tree, not just because of the species, but in recognition of our heritage. This species, these trees, our canopy, our nature, it's part of our patrimony as well as the cultural patrimony of houses like this and our museums and things like this. The idea of dovetailing our natural patrimony with our built cultural heritage is really appealing to us. So we were very happy that the Heritage Society and of course Houston Parks and Rec Department wanted to work with us on getting this tree here.
Yeah, well, and I think when people think of Houston as a large urban center, lots of concrete. I mean, we're standing right adjacent to downtown, where there are lots of buildings. So can you kind of talk about that interesting dichotomy of the natural side versus the city urban side?
So that there's an inherent conflict, right? The built environment with the natural environment. We're in the shadow of Chevron. Well, Chevron made the donation to pay for this event and pay for this tree, and we are a 25+ year partnership with them. And it it is really important to us to recognize how philanthropic and generous Houston's corporate uh, culture is. And none of this happens, and it's not just Chevron, it's across the board, and it's individual philanthropy and corporate philanthropy. These things require money and time and sustained effort over time. And so to be able to do this here, in the shadow of we are literally in the shadow of everything that makes this possible. Right. So yes, there's sometimes conflict between the built environment and the natural environment, but the built environment is what allows us to do this. It's what pays for it, right? And that's okay, because we all need homes and we all need offices and we all need roads to drive on. But at the same time, when a portion of that largesse goes back into building parks and planting trees and restoring our coastline, then it all comes out in the wash. And we're very happy to be part of a community like Houston, where the corporate philanthropic mindset is geared towards giving back.
Yeah, can you talk more just about Chevron's involvement and other corporate partnerships that have made your mission possible?
Yes. So today happens to be one where Chevron is the lead partner, but we have of course numerous very generous corporate donors. And with Chevron, we've had a tree farm with them going back into the early 90s. That they support tree planting efforts at schools, as do many other partners, and they just allow for dozens of parks and schools to be planted every year in Houston, year in, year out, with very little fanfare. And they're not asking for a bunch of publicity for it. They just do it because it's the best thing to do. Their children live here too. The 8,000 Chevron employees in Houston, they all have kids. They all have homes. They all live and recreate and worship here. And they want this to be a beautiful place. And that's true of every company in Houston, right? And so, or at least you hope it is. And so here we are doing this today because of that commitment to quality of life in the greater Houston area.
Yeah. So we talked about how this is kind of an important site, just historically, culturally, for this particular tree, but maybe talking more generally about how Trees for Houston approaches the way you plant. How do you think about, okay, these areas are the areas we want to focus on putting our trees?
Yeah, so there are different metrics we use. Sometimes it is as simple as the Acme company wants me to plant in this area because that's where their office is. But more often it's about, where is there not tree cover? Where is there not shade? Where are there water or air quality issues that we may help remediate? So we go through analysis that other organizations ably collect data on. We use that data and then we say, okay, here's where you need trees. Now, that being said, that's a fancy way of saying you can really just drive around, and if there's no trees, you need to put them there.
Yeah.
We do use data, of course, but you don't really need to sometimes. You just drive through. There's no trees at that school. Well, I know I need to plant.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need air quality data to tell me that kids need shade.
Right.
Right. So so it can be complex, but it also can be very simple.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, you mentioned shade, and I know a lot of people probably know trees provide oxygen, they provide cleaner air. What are the other benefits of having a large treescape in a city like?
I feel like the environmental issues that are ameliorated by trees are pretty well known now, and you've already enumerated them. But the undersold portion of that is quality of life, psychology, health benefits that are all well documented now and data driven. People are healthier and happier when they are in well-treed green areas than they are in places that are full of just steel and glass and concrete.
Yeah.
So from an aesthetic quality, I mean, think about Houston. Nobody who ever lived in Texas said, I think I want to live where there are no trees. I think I want to live where there's no shade. I think I want my next house to be all concrete. Nobody ever said that, right? And so it's intuitive when you put it that way. And so when you think of that, the urban forest does not regenerate itself. You have to replant. And so our million trees, they're not really a luxury. They are a requirement for us to have a reasonable quality of life. And you have to do this year in, year out, forever.
Yeah. So we've talked corporate partnerships, but what else? Who else makes stuff like this possible, like volunteers and other things like that?
Volunteers, we have volunteers here today who have planted. Volunteers make a significant dent on my bottom line on my books every year by saving me money when I plant trees, right? There are private philanthropic individuals and philanthropic foundations who all make this happen. We do not use any tax dollars. And so every tree we plant, somebody or some non-governmental agency or corporation gave us money to plant these trees, right?
Mhm.
So there's no Department of Energy or Department of Agricultural, there's no tax-based dollars coming to me, zero. And so I have to go out and make sure that I match the right donor to the right site. And we're able to do that because of the generosity of this community year in, year out. We raised enough money to do a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
And again, it speaks to the culture and mindset of the greater Houston area.
Yeah. So we're talking here a little bit before the actual event is going to start. So we're not going to get to watch the tree get planted live on the show, but can you talk about what's going to happen at 10 and what's the whole process going to
Right.
be?
So we have a tree that probably weighs something along the lines of 20,000 pounds here, and it's hydraulically lifted. We've pre-excavated the giant hole, and they're going to slowly lower this in. We'll take off the canvas wrap. We'll spade in some dirt, and then the real work starts. Where for the next 2 to 3 years, we'll all have to take care of this to make sure it lives. But it's quite simple. And without hydraulics, you can't do this. So without
Sure.
hydraulics, you're planting a 6-foot tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, so what is it going to take to get to 2 million trees? What's in store for the future?
So the first 15 years or so of the organization was about 10,000 trees,
Mhm.
right? And in the remaining time, we did the other kind of 990,000, right? We really picked it up. So you have to find the stasis point between what the environment and what the fundraising, the physical environment and what the fundraising culture can sustain here. You don't want to plant anything you can't take care of. And they're also in the built environment, there's a limited amount of spaces you can put trees in. So there's a carrying capacity, to use a biological term, there's a carrying capacity of the urban environment, just like there is a prairie or a forest. You have to figure out what that is. Part of what it means is geographically you extend as the city extends, because there aren't that many places to put a tree downtown. And when you do plant a tree downtown, it's because one died. So it's a replacement. But right now, Katy, Fulshire, Sugarland, Missouri City, those are the places where you need large scale reforestation and forestation to offset growth and to make sure that those places stay green and habitable and walkable and beautiful.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about what this means for the city, what this means for the environment. What about you personally? What does this mean for you as Barry Ward?
You know, after pushing 20 years of doing this, it is very humbling to think, as we stand here, I'm staring out at a crowd full of board members and corporate funders and volunteers. It is really humbling to think that I happen to be at the tip of this environment, but with no false humility whatsoever. I am the least important person out of all this. On any given day, it's the chevrons of the world who are giving us the money. It is the board members who are doing the politicking and that sort of thing. It's the staff who are getting trees in the ground. I'm a conduit. That's all I am. And so I am very humbled and very honored to have been trusted to be put in a position to make this happen for my adopted hometown.
Well, Barry, thank you for giving us some of your time today. It was
You're
great
very
to talk
welcome.
with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Craig,
appreciate
back to
it.
you.
Thank you.
Houston Matters producer Joshua Zinn there in downtown Houston with Barry Ward, the executive director of Trees for Houston, which is celebrating the planting of its 1 millionth tree in Greater Houston this morning at the Kellum-Noble House at the Heritage Society at Sam Houston Park.